as someone who's not yet famous and often performing with people that are famous, I can do that with them. Yeah, that like I would do a showcase show with a bunch of like more famous people, and like I could feel the room feeling like, what? Who the fuck is this guy? And like, why does he think he can do this? Like, and that's great.
Comedy.
Ciao. Welcome to the Comedy Hall.
Perfect. Ciao, guys. I am Beatrice Rossano.
Beatrice, you look so nice.
Rossano on the Instagram. Welcome to the Comedy Hall. I am.
You're so German, Beatrice.
I am accompanied by my co-host Ariel Bialski.
Ciao, Beatrice. And also, we have Jordan Thomas Gray.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm here too. Shut up, Jordan. Pizza Pasta, our guest today.
No, listen. Jordan, that's enough.
All right. Hey, guys, Beatrice is not here. She's in Italy making a lasagna or something.
Yeah,
what is she doing?
Yeah, making lasagna, yeah.
Anyway.
It'd be actually funny if she was never a part of this podcast. She was just like on the poster, and you guys always did that.
A good podcast name would be I'm Doing a Bit. Maybe we should rename this podcast I'm Doing a Bit. Anyway,
so today we have a very special guest. Just anytime he performs, listen.
We have Filip Brymora here today with us, comedian, rising star, we might say, in the Polish comedy scene. You perform at open mics in English sometimes. Whenever you do it, I love it. I'm very sad you don't do it more often.
I plan to do it more often. You guys are very kind. You always introduce me these ways. It makes me feel self-conscious when I go on stage, which is great as a performer.
Ladies and gentlemen, here comes one of the
stars in Polish comedy.
Yeah. You do clearly separate me from the rest of the performance, which on a certain egotistical level I appreciate, of course.
I mean, to be fair, we should, in the sense that you are, Filip, to our listeners, is a Polish stand-up comedian, probably first and foremost in the sense that you are a professional stand-up comedian in Polish.
Yeah.
However, with that said, you absolutely do it in English, and when you do it in English, it's funny as fuck. And so if you ever write me for a Tuesday night show, hey, do you have an extra spot? I'll never say no.
Which I appreciate. I also think, you met me on a really good night for me. Because I remember that. You were the person I talked to from the stage when we did the Level 27 show. Yeah?
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that was you. Because you're a Canadian musician DJ guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Ariel Bialski, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But we met at this event, and I remember saying hi to you, and then going on stage. I was performing third maybe, and I did the first 10 minutes of crowd work, which included talking to you and delivering a really funny moment that I asked you about where you're from, and you said you're a Canadian, but then I asked you if you speak Polish, which is just a real weird question to ask a Canadian. And you were like, yes. You were like, you said something for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
You said for sure. And I'm like, that's not a for sure type of a question. You're Canadian, bro. It doesn't usually come easily to Canadians. And we started talking. And then I was like, so do you consider yourself an expat here? And you're like, immigrant? What's the difference? And I just said skin color mostly. And the room exploded. The room exploded. And there were a lot of people of color there. And they felt this thing of oh, this guy gets it. Because it was clearly a spur of the moment type thing. And that was one of the first times that I performed in flow state. Complete flow state.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I said was hitting, And I thought about that day at that time a lot, because I felt like it took me to a new level, and
that's so interesting you're talking about that, because I remember that night. I don't remember that it was you on stage, but of course it was, because I remember that moment of like talking to the comedian.
Was this 2020?
I feel like it had to be earlier, because I don't think there was any pandemic talk.
Yeah, there was no pandemic talk. Yeah, no pandemic talk, and also I wasn't doing comedy. And I remember like this, there's a couple
This
things
was
about
Dave
this.
Rigelski's first show at Level 27.
Okay, and I went to a
show,
later
maybe.
Level 27 show.
Yeah, or no, maybe there were a couple. But like, I remember, because also whenever a comedian talks to me on stage, like, I like to be funny and goof around, but I need to give them the spotlight. I'm not a heckler, and I'm not a type of person to be like, look at me, I'm not on stage and I'm going to...
Where you're trying to outsmart... There are member audiences that try to like outsmart the comedian.
Right. And so I was just like, it's usually, I've had comedians talk to me when I'm in the crowd and just being like, yes, sir, no, sir, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so like, for sure is just a Canadian response, and you taking it and going places. And also, someone told me, because I do a DJ bit where I'm moving around and doing fucking DJing this thing. Someone told me that you did that on stage, because I mentioned I'm a DJ.
That night.
And you did pretty much a similar bit. And then
because then we continued talking, and I was like, okay, an immigrant. And then I said, so what job are you stealing? and you said, I'm a musician, a DJ. And I was like, okay, because we definitely needed more of those.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, they need this in Poland. And I started doing the DJing movements. But by then, by then they were like, I could have said whatever the fuck I wanted.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I had a decision to make when I first walked on stage. And this is the thing that is important for me, like, all the time still. And if people are listening to this, this is like the thing that will be important to them.
Right.
Do the braver thing, right? Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of that night, Dave had a joke. When they were hosting, there were two hosts, Dave and Bader, yeah?
Yeah.
And they had a joke about how terrible Dave's vision is. He has these thick glasses, and the joke was that when he's eating pussy, he doesn't know whose pussy he's eating, and he's like, it could be your pussy, it could be your pussy, it could be your pussy, and he's showing, like, he's kind of gesturing toward women in the front row. And I was standing in the back, which is another good thing. Like, if you're prepared well enough for your own shit that you don't have to be reviewing your notes all the time,
right?
It's good to like take in the energy of the room before you perform. Yeah. So it's kind of like meditative in the way that you got to feel out, what are we dealing with here? Yeah. And right in the front row was this like sharply dressed Italian guy with two equally sharply dressed ladies by his side. Yeah. So I was like, I gotta say something about that. Like, he can't just be like pimping hoes in the middle of like the show and no one's gonna say anything. Yeah. So I thought that I would say that, like, I would allude back to that joke, and I'd be like, you can't afford this pussy. Yeah. And then like I hesitated. Yeah. Because I was like, like, can I say that? Like, essentially what I'm doing is I'm comparing them to whores. Yeah, like it's essentially what's gonna happen, and we're gonna be sitting like 2 meters away from each other for the next 30 minutes after I say that. Yeah,
right.
So you get attacked with fear, and then you gotta do it. You just gotta like, and then you can't like stumble through it scared. You gotta do it like it's not even gonna be an issue. Like, I own this shit, and like if you got a problem, you can take your shit somewhere else. Yeah, because here we're gonna make these jokes. Yeah. So I went up there, I did the joke, it landed great.
Was it was it the first joke you did?
First thing I did was I asked him his name. His name was like Italian sounding, so
it's like Jimmy Pepperoni or something.
Filippo. It was Fabio. Yeah, his name was Fabio. Yeah, and then it just all started flowing. And then it sucks going back to your material after that.
Right.
Bit, because it just becomes like we switch to the rehearsed thing. Yeah?
And that was your first like flow state while you're performing in Polish or in English?
That was the first like... I'm sure I've had levels of flow state before. I mean, like... I might even say like most times I perform, I reach a certain level of flow state where I have no idea how much time has disappeared. Like, and I recorded my first 30 minutes. Like toward the end, I had this like panic moment in my head because I knew I was wrapping up, but I thought I was on stage for like 12. And I looked at the clock or the stopwatch I had on my phone, and it was like close to 30. And I knew that there was something like metaphysical about whatever is happening here.
Right.
And then like you're so in the moment that time ceases to exist.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
We should probably also back up a little bit just to like talk about when you started, because even that show, if we're saying it's 2019, how long before that did you start doing comedy? Also, was it in Polish you started? Was it in English? And what's the percentage of Polish and English do you do?
Yeah.
Where were you born?
I was born in Poland. I spent the first 12 years of my life in Poland. Then I moved to the States, and I spent the next 9 out of 11 years in the States. Then I came back to Poland for a little bit again. Then I got my master's in the Netherlands. Around the time I was 24, 25.
Master's in?
European law.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
But that time was significant. Like,
how old were you in the Netherlands?
24, between like 24 and 26 or something like that. 20, yeah.
Just getting a master's in EU law, thinking one day iPhones will have USB-C. And that'll be my project.
Yeah, so like the whole thing was like the thing that I wanted to do as a child is I wanted to be a basketball player. And
oh man,
that's tragic. That's a tragic story.
Yeah. When that like
Philip is 4'3" for everybody.
When it was, and the thing is, like this all like started kind of like a spiritual journey in a way, because I pushed myself so hard trying to accomplish that goal with the role models that are psychopathic, like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and hard work pays off and all that bullshit. While also not approaching the thing holistically enough to like, if I could like redo life, I know how to make an NBA player out of anybody now, I believe. Yeah. having worked through, whatever. Yeah. So if my son wants to be an NBA player, I feel like it'll be not really an issue. Yeah.
I'll just kill him.
But for me, like when it was becoming obvious that wasn't going to work out, like I just thought of like this random fucking plan B of being a lawyer, which allows you to have like a certain level of competition, but it becomes like mental, cognitive, rational, logical, things like that.
Was there a trial lawyer part of it? Because a lot of law in the U.S. is performance.
Exactly.
Right? Was that part of it?
Exactly. That was absolutely a part of it. Yeah. Then like it was the American way of doing law that was so attractive to me. Yeah? Which by the way, like if you're just, people should have an understanding of like what's an adversarial system as opposed to a judicial system where like in Europe you convince the judge that you're right. Who knows the law as well as you and has 30 years experience more than you do. In America, you convince 12 random ass strangers.
You do a little dance. I'm just a country lawyer.
Exactly.
I'm just a chicken.
A completely different ball game.
I'm just a caveman.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So there is this performance aspect to it. There's this charisma aspect to it. There's this and there's this sort of like mentalism aspect to it in a way. Yeah? Like you're guiding the mind into certain corners, which is something that you're doing with stand-up as well. Like you're guiding the mind into a certain corner just to like hit him from another side that like I was only doing that so I can surprise you with that, you know? So yeah, what was the question was when I started. Yeah, so I started, I believe I started late 2017. I started
any stand-up.
Yeah, I started in English. Not long after that, I did an open mic in Polish, but
you started in English. There was an open mic. Sure. Which open mic did you do here? Was it with
there was there was an English stand-up Poland open mic hosted by Pete Szumowski.
Oh, okay. Pete, Petey Shooms.
So yeah, he brought me on.
How old were you when you started?
30.
Okay.
I was 31 when I started.
Yeah. Which has its advantages and disadvantages. Like,
disadvantages closer to death.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the same energy as the people in their 20s.
But you're so much smarter, with all due respect to these young people. Like, you're so much smarter.
And you bring the confidence automatically.
And you have, like, you have things to say that, like, you're more convinced of by now. You know? Like, I've realized that adulthood, in a way, is the stopping of the process of learning shit all the time and just using what you got to like build this life. Yeah. And in a way that's also like an explanation for why like parents seem stuck in a certain time, because they had to make a decision to just stop with like you know 30 years is enough to like build this base to like build this life upon. And I try to be conscious of what the world is becoming, you know, and that's also like a connection with your kids type of thing. Like you don't want to lose touch of like what the world is so that you have an understanding with him closer. But yeah, like you just got to go with it from a certain point.
Yeah. It's weird. I had a thought that was like childhood. It's kind of the opposite thought. It was like childhood is like full of, oh, everyone's stupid. Like, oh, you like the Backstreet Boys? You're stupid. But like adulthood is realizing I'm stupid. like, oh man, this guy's cool. Fuck, I'm an idiot. Of course he's cool. Like, just not realizing.
It's not like you're stupid, but you're just accepting your own version of yourself, and this is like, this is the journey, whatever the journey is. Like that, you're already okay. And you don't need to fucking pretend to be anybody else and even try to figure out who you're supposed to be. You just gotta like remove the bullshit from you that the world gives you all the time to like be able to just be yourself. And as fucking cliche as that sounds, all the greatest gifts that like you have, and especially for people that like have already concluded that they want to do stand up or they want to try stand up or they want to do anything artistic, they say like everything's been done except your life. So all you got to do is just look at what's interesting there. Talk about it.
Yeah, because we have comedians in the scene that are in their early 20s, and if they bomb, it's like devastating to them.
Yeah.
But if I bomb, I'm like, not a good night.
It's also like bombing's kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
In the universe of things, like doing that is just hilarious. Like, and if you're enough in the moment to find the hilarious in it when it's happening, then you're not even bombing anymore. You know, like because they can't hurt you. You know?
Did you like Norm Macdonald?
I liked Norm Macdonald, of course. I liked him a little bit less than I think people would expect from me, because he's clearly like my type of comedian. And I think like there are pieces of that he has done that are absolute masterpieces. You know, like his last late night about like how Germany went on a war against the world. Like that is as good as stand-up gets, you know? But I also think sometimes he was boring.
Yeah, sure. Know? I understand. I'm only bringing him up because
9/11 Airlines.
Yeah.
It's terrible name. It reminds me of that tragedy.
Horrible tragedy. But I'm only bringing him up because there was like Vancouver put up a billboard of one of his quotes that was basically about bombing, where he's like, comedy is about surprise. So if a comedian goes on stage to make you laugh and no one laughs, that's surprising. That's pretty funny.
You know, that's brilliant. And like, I had a moment of crisis at a certain point. Yeah, then because as you're performing and as you're like advancing in this shit, so you're not doing just open mics for like a random collection of 30 people
or
like,
10 or
10.
7.
Yeah. So the audience becomes a player in your life. The audience becomes an agent in your life. Yeah. Like it becomes this separate thing. Yeah. That is made up of human beings, but really your interaction with them it's just this thing called the audience. Yeah.
Right.
If you want to jump in with something.
I've been having nightmares that I'll be doing a show. It's never about the audience. It's about the mic doesn't work, or like there's a lineup and no one will tell me where I am in it. It's about not having control over the theater of the production. Never is the audience the problem. I think I even had one nightmare where the audience rebelled, but I was like, yeah, that's on me.
So in a way, like, I think you're a little bit better off. Yeah. Like there are things to analyze there. Like I have a theory that most of the dreams that I remember are a reflection of my own fears somehow. Yeah. So like if you have these fears of like not knowing when you are in the lineup, if you really like break that down, like it completely doesn't matter. Yeah. Because when you go up there, you're supposed to be this thing that you always are. Yeah. You're supposed to be this thing that you always have access to. So, and you're even using the word control. And that's a dangerous word, man. Yeah.
Like in stand-up especially.
Yeah. So in a way, like you should probably like throw yourself into something that will make you realize that some of these things will happen and you'll still be okay. And if you're not okay, it'll still be okay because of all the things we're talking about. Yeah. That there's no such thing as bombing, really.
But this comes back to we're all over 30. We've all lived 100 years ago, we'd be dead. You know, like
I don't think that's true, but I get what you mean.
500 years ago, we'd be dead. 1,000 years ago, we'd be dead.
You'd definitely be dead.
I'd be still dead. Yeah. Before glasses, for sure, I'd be dead. But anyway, point being that I was thinking today about this idea of radical acceptance of that. If you can be in a place where you can just accept anything that happens to you, like that's peace. And I was telling Ariel recently that I got laser eye surgery. And I was very afraid of it. So I just was like, I catastrophized. I was like, this might make me go blind. But I just accepted that, okay, I will do the surgery. I will go blind. And then I will be blind. And that's fine. And I went into the surgery with that mindset and was perfectly at peace. And then I wasn't blind at the end. I was very pleased and quite happy.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
So this is also like a Buddhist idea in there, yeah. That one of the most important thing in Buddhism is detachment, yeah. That so you are detached from the result because you accepted your decision. That your decision, whatever happens, is going to be the right decision, right? So this is actually connected to how like what chakras you're operating with, and like
what's my chakra?
We all have the same chakras. It's just a matter of how like active.
I love chakra.
I'm a Cancer. I think Ariel's a Capricorn.
Your intuition is in your 6th chakra, and your intuition helps you make decisions that aren't necessarily logic based and trapped in the mind. They are sort of these heart decisions that feel right. And then like if you're renting an apartment and like you walk into a place that's smaller and seems cramped and you're worried about, you know, your commute to work, but you walk in this motherfucker and it feels like home, then that's an intuition decision. You should probably listen to that as opposed to like rationalizing living somewhere else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and that is also everybody's journey. Yeah. That like detach yourself from the result. So no matter what happens, nothing changes. Like if the audience loves you or hates you, nothing changes. You're doing the thing that you believe is right for you to do. And people that tend to become stand-ups have this thing of like wanting to shine. Yeah, like for whatever reason, either their daddies didn't tell them they loved them enough, or
Mom
whatever.
Didn't listen to their stories.
Check.
Or we all have these things almost generationally, and I think stand-ups are lucky enough to be able to identify some of these things and go into this thing that I think is beautiful. Yeah, like I think stand-up is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but this shining, even if it works, you need the light to be shown upon you. So at that point, even if you're shining, you need the audience, you need the critics, you need your friends, you need whatever to tell you that you're fucking awesome. Yeah. But you're supposed to be sort of shining internally, even if that doesn't exist. Yeah. So we're back to like the relationship with the audience and this thing that it becomes. And I was opening for a guy in Poland, and he was kind of like strange in a way, because most of the people that I open for are either like famous to the point that like they seclude themselves, or awkward enough to the point that they just like take a couple pictures after the show and they go. Like this guy interacted with members of the audience, like, and this was small town Poland, so he would like be at a dinner after the show, and like drunk people from the show would like want to sit at our table, and he'd be like, yeah, come on it. Yeah. So then you'd actually have a resemblance of a conversation with people who paid for these tickets to see you. And then the next day, like we went to play pool with 3 more members of the audience. And this left me like borderline depressed for the next 2 weeks, because I felt like in time, if I keep doing my own thing, like I'll build an audience of my own, right? But with this guy, I was kind of like doing the circuit, like doing certain towns and certain clubs, and some of these people that we were interacting with, they're regulars. So no matter who comes to do stand-up, they'll be there, And I listened to the way like they talk to each other and the conversations they're having. And I was like, man, I was worried about like insulting people or whatever, but like the level of like insulting they do to each other is like on another level completely. And it made me feel like I have nothing to do with these people, like, so how much do I give them of what they want, and how much do I do of what I want? Yeah? And this is a line I'm still like figuring out, and I try to do mixes of, I'll do my way of thinking to like latch people onto something unique, but also will give them like the shit that makes audiences lose their shit funny. Yeah. So to give you an example, like I have material now about my approach to healthcare, which I think is like twisted and unique and interesting and hilarious to me. And I mixed that with a joke about the word video colonoscopy when I heard, and it made it sound to me like it's a remote procedure. So I do the whole bit about a remote colonoscopy, and they fucking love it so much every time. It bats 1,000, yeah, like because I'm sticking imaginary things up my ass, yeah, and it always works. So I got to give them a little bit to like show them that I can do the game, I can play the game that others play and that you want played, or you think you want played, but I'll also like twist this shit up a little bit, to like fuck with you. And
here's a question. Do you find that the stuff that kills hardest for you is not the stuff that makes you chuckle when you're writing it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that too, that it's like, all right, I was like, this will probably work. And then it kills, and it's surprising. And then the stuff that makes me like giggle, people are like, oh yeah.
But the thing is, like, I heard the theory, I don't remember if this is Seinfeld or somebody, like they said that you need to really like pull 8% of the audience. So like 8% of every show that you do must become your fans, right? So you're really like, while the people that we're mostly describing is this sort of most average of audience members, like if we're looking at them as a mass of people, it's sort of the Justin Bieber effect, that like better music will never be more popular than popular music. Like Justin Biebers of the world will always like jingle their way to billions of dollars, while Rage Against the Machine will be
just hundreds of millions of dollars.
Whatever.
That's
you know what I mean.
I know what you're saying, but bad example. Rage Against the Machine was
okay.
Man.
Bob Dylan was my other example.
He's also huge.
But this is also the point that like you can
be popular and be an incredible artist.
Exactly.
John Mulaney.
Yeah, John Mulaney's brilliant. Like, he has jokes that I've
been working on my John Mulaney impression. It's still not very good.
But the thing that actually even Jordan brought it up was, and I forgot about it, but it was a joke, exactly what you're talking about. And that Jordan brought up is a joke that you thought, whatever, it's a throwaway, but it was a super funny what you did on stage. And we can edit this out if you don't want it burned, but like your gay mosquito joke.
Mosquitoes think we're gay because we're always like, it's a very visual joke.
Yeah, it is
the way you swat them away.
Go away.
It's very, very funny. And I was like, oh man, that's such a funny fucking joke. And you're like, what? That one?
Think about that joke whenever there's a mosquito. So
that's great. That's great. And that is also, I'm also very, very respectful of what is referred to as observational humor. Yeah. So I love the Seinfeldy aspect of you can't experience something without thinking of a particular joke. Yeah. And it's just an everyday life thing. Like, his body odor on taxi drivers in New York, like if you walk, like for me, if I get into an Uber and the driver smells, like I think of Seinfeld's joke from like 30 years ago, right. And it's done so perfectly that it's just finished, like it's just finished. And so it's always like good to pick up on these like words of encouragement, whether it's, because I do remember like fearing that joke might not work. And every time you mention a group of people, there's always like a heightened risk of, groupthink and identity politics and all that shit. Like, oh, he's talking about gay people and it's not funny and go fuck yourself. And like, and you guys, it's like all the comics reaction to that joke. Like everybody walked up to me and told me that was like their favorite thing. And that's very encouraging. And I had a similar thing, like I first published on YouTube like a 7-minute set, which was basically just like to have something going around basically that we can send to other comedians that they can see me to give me a shot at opening for them, which is by the way something that like as far as like career moves, that's something I recommend. Like at a certain point when you have like 20 minutes that you can deal with, to record 7 of them, not to like have a bunch of views, because that's probably not going to happen, but to be able to send to comedians, and you'll be like, you'll be present in that group of people, and then somebody might give you a shot at being their opening act. And in that 7 minutes, I had a bit about how in Poland, when you like pay with a credit card at certain like terminals or whatever those machines are called, it says not like transaction approved, but it says permission, and it says zgoda. And And people told me that, and I got messages on Facebook from strangers that, like, whenever they would see the word zgoda, it's impossible not to think of that joke. Because we have the mind that says, wait a minute, like, why are they giving me permission to spend my hard-earned money, you know? Like, and then you exaggerate that to, like, you know, you introduce an image of a fat, disgusting banker, you know, allowing you to get a hot dog at a zapka. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. I think that happens also with many arts, because I have that also with music. Someone says one phrase and it reminds me of this song and it repeats in my head. It's usually Tupac. But, that absolutely, that's like...
I was listening to a Tupac song yesterday. The guy was very petty. His diss tracks. Fuck Biggie, fuck Mobb Deep, y'all should die slow. Guy, find happiness from within.
Yeah, man, but he was young, man. He died at 25. So.
Yeah, that makes
also,
sense.
a very, like, you see a lot of dualism in the art of Tupac. You know,
For sure.
He almost seems to be two separate people, which was his life. Yeah, like... I think analyzing these dualities of yourself, like, where are you a contradiction? That's the process of finding your voice. Yeah?
And like Law, he was in an adversarial system. It was East Coast versus West Coast. That was what he was operating in. He's not going to be the Gandhi of that. And in fact, he profits.
But it was also, like, completely fear-based, and he created some of that. Like, he created most of it. It became like paranoia, fear-based thinking, and he really perpetuated a lot of that himself. You know.
Yeah, but he got attacked and got shot, and he thought it was totally from fear, but thought it was the East Coast hating him because he's on the East Coast, and so, like...
Yeah, but think about that, yeah? Like, you're... like, that's an amazing thing that happens, because I've experienced things like that, like...
Comedians have shot at you?
That if things are not going right, you would analyze the possibility of someone working against you, yeah? Which is a ludicrous idea, probably, because, like, everybody's just, like, focused on their own shit and battling their own demons, yeah, and no one really has time to fuck with you. But, for example, and what maybe implanted that idea into my mind is, like, in Polish hip-hop, there are games being played that are absolutely, taking out your competition type of stuff, like, you know, hacking your website on the date of your pre-orders release or stuff like that. And when I heard that, I was like, God damn, like, that's straight, like, mob type shit, you know? And when I generally entered the scene for a while, it was a bit depressing to me to realize the amount of toxicity that was present in this world, and I thought I would just be, like, surrounded by a bunch of happy, funny guys, and then I was hit with realities that, you know, there's a lot of dislike and distrust, and I have to say a lot of that has gotten better over the years. I think this was just kind of the moment in the history of Polish stand-up where I came in that, like, you know, things were blowing up and people were making more money than they ever imagined. And they realized that if you, like, steal a joke, then that translates to money. And
in Polish stand-up that happened, like that. Yeah. Steal a joke, fuck it, it's good.
No,
they're realizing it's a possibility that you can do,
but you can make money
because people are governed by incentives.
I remember, like, a guy feeling that someone else had stolen his joke, and I remember him, like, being really worked up about it and talking to other comedians, and him using the phrase, like, he's stealing my money.
Oh, in that sense, that relates directly to money being stolen from him.
Exactly.
Not that you steal a joke and then you make money off it. I misinterpreted. Yeah. Okay, yeah, keep going.
And then when you're the new guy coming in, like, I felt like, you know, people weren't, like, willing to help as much as I thought they would be willing to help, and it was all kind of like a weird, eye-opening experience, and it really took years to kind of, like, feel accepted in that world, you know?
I think that's a huge that's a huge thing that we have here in the English comedy scene, and it started with like more so with Bea and Jordan, where I started that Tuesday night show, and then they started one on Wednesday, but like the amount of communication between us and then working together and then starting another show on Sunday is like, it wasn't like, oh, you have a show, let's fight. It's more like we're working together.
We encountered that of like, you want a show in my venue on the same week?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
And we didn't want that.
Very bizarre.
More comedy equals better. If you're threatened by a show in your venue in the same week, your show's not good enough.
Yeah, and you're also, if you're threatened by like a bunch of new guys, like how much confidence do you have in yourself to like have these random new guys like feel like they're gonna come eat your shit?
Yeah, right.
You know?
And actually, to be honest, like, so in Toronto, like produce hip hop for artists, and as a producer, it's much easier than being a rapper in the sense that rappers, you can work with hundreds of rappers if you really want to. But like, I saw the kind of dog eat dog. Oh, you're a rapper? I'm not talking to you because you're taking away from my meal or whatever. And when I came to Poland, when I came to Warsaw specifically, especially as a DJ, it's like, oh, you're a DJ? Oh, I have a friend who works at a bar. Or you're a DJ? So am I. Hey, maybe you want to DJ on Friday.
So let me jump in here because there also might be a thing that you guys are dealing. So expats become immigrants. Yeah, they become a certain level of community just by their own otherness in the country. Yeah, so. Because I've heard stories about the DJ community that are just like your rapper stories from Toronto.
About the Warsaw scene.
Yeah, but it was sort of like Polish people. Yeah. So it might become that, and even if when you go to perform for expats or immigrants or whatever, that like you feel like the bar is set so much lower. Like it's so much easier for me to do English comedy in Warsaw than it is to do Polish comedy because I almost feel like these people are so grateful that they have something to do.
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
Whereas Polish people, like, we battled probably 18 different plays in theaters and 2 concerts and a game of football on TV and everything else. Somehow, like, you end up in this room and you know how Polish people are. A lot of them have this attitude of like crossing their arms, being like, entertain me, bitch. You know, like
dance monkey boy.
Exactly.
Why should I think you're funny? Yeah.
And then if you're opening for a guy who's famous, then like they came to see their hero. Yeah. And here you are about to waste 30 minutes of my life. Show me what you got.
Right.
Like, and sometimes like I opened for the most popular comedian in Poland at arenas.
Do you want to name him?
I mean, everyone knows. Like it's Rafał Pacześ. Yeah, like he's we're doing venues for like 9,000 people. Yeah, and he does a 2-hour show, so I only had 10. So I made it a point to tell them that I'm only doing 10. Yeah,
right.
And then I also added a joke about being his supporting act. Yeah. So, which is always helpful to sort of identify the truth of the situation that you're in. Yeah. Sure. So I'm kind of trying to move that into different directions. Like I'm supposed to send Comedy Central, like 8 minutes to do another season of their comedy club thing that they do.
Yeah.
And the things that are coming out of me are the juxtaposition of like when I was younger and I thought I'd be on Comedy Central and how exciting that would be to now it being kind of an inconvenience in my life.
It's like a business decision.
It's a business decision. Like how much do they want? Like how much are they paying me? Like and there's also the idea of like kind of making fun of the people who watch television in today's world.
Yeah, who's
you know?
like I wouldn't even know how to find Comedy Central as a thing that I can watch.
So I kind of want to go up there and look into the camera and be like, we're all here because you don't count. like you're actually not included in the statistics because you're just going to watch.
Do that.
You know?
You can do that.
I'm probably going to. We'll see what the producers say as always, because like I've done a season with them and I've sent them shit and they were like, so this is fine. This is great. But if you could replace this and this, that would be great. And then I'd be like, and then I didn't do anything. Yeah. So I was like, you said it was fine. Like you gave me an option of changing something. And I'm choosing not to exercise that option. So they will hit me back up a few days later and be like, could we just check what you could replace that with? So then I wrote something else. And then they were like, we'll take the first version.
And also, I find, because Polish people are terrible at negotiating. Some of the worst negotiation ever, it's like you offend them by even mentioning a different option. And it's so crazy, because like I've had it with DJing where it's like, hey, we'd love to hire you for Saturday for this special event that'll only happen once a year, whatever. How much would you want to get paid? And I'm like, literally try to word it like, okay, I would like this amount, but I'm up for negotiation, no problem. And they're like, that's too high, thank you very much. Like, that's it? Nope. That's the end of the negotiation? What the fuck?
It's like, they don't know it's like a game even.
Yeah. And then this is back to detachment, yeah? Like, you have to sort of do things in your own conscience and be like, I'm okay with playing it this way and I'm detached from the consequences, yeah? So, like, if this doesn't work out, I'm cool. Yeah, like I'm not changing who I am to do something. And that's what this joke will turn into, that I eventually end up accepting their shitty deal because of not being comfortable with these people who are watching reruns of this show, watching someone else.
Sure.
You mentioned that if you're a comedian and you're starting or like intermediate and someone more established wants you to open for them, say yes. It's like, it should be an obvious yes.
Yeah.
And the pay should be secondary.
Yeah.
Like ideally they should pay you, but it's just part of it. That if you have that opportunity, do it. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Stage time is huge. And like, man, an opening gig is money. Like, so for me, this guy named Rafał Rutkowski picked me up first and gave me 30 minutes, man. And like, to be fair, I earned the shit. Like, because I got signed with a manager relatively early into my career because he saw things in me, and he wasn't like that. Don't get it twisted. That's not like the American understanding of a manager, yeah, where you go into this agency and they start like putting you on this fucking
Filip Brymora.
Exactly, yeah. Like, this is a dude who was like literally starting this agency out of a garage, and like he was kind of like the agent version of yourself, yeah. So just breaking into things and whatever. So he got me a testing show with this guy. I did 30 minutes before him. In front of like 40 people and smashed. And I was doing things that were my own, and I never really got accused of being a hack because I was always doing like my own shit, yeah. So then he gave me that supporting gig. I did like a little bit of shows with him, and he hosted the biggest comedy tour in Polish history, which was Bang 2, which was Rafał Pacześ, Łukasz Lotek-Lotkowski, and Kacper Ruciński. 3 of the best comedians in Poland in one stage. Everybody was doing 30 minutes. And then Rutek hosted that. So he talked to them about me, and then Kacper, one of those guys, when he needed like a 4-day tour, booked me on a 4-day tour. And then, like you spend time with each other, like you kind of, sometimes you'll become friends and sometimes you won't become friends. And I noticed like energies of people match at a certain level. Yeah? And as like cliche as it sounds, like there are certain people who are like, they're like winners in a certain way. Yeah, that like they're workers. They don't give a shit. They do it. They stay in activity mode. Yeah, and there are people who just talk shit, and they talk shit about other people, and they definitely talk shit about the people at the top. Yeah, so I've gotten a taste of both of these worlds, and I've heard what people sort of down below say at the guy at the top. Yeah, and he takes on a lot of criticism from other comedians. Yeah, that he's too simple, hacky. He does racist humor, does chauvinist humor, does alcohol humor, stuff like that. Those are his criticism, and some of that is partially true. But the thing is, and the thing that they don't get is that he is okay with being imperfect. And that's the thing that attracts these thousands of people. He is authentic, even in his flaws. And yeah, he said shit that probably can be considered racist. He has said shit that can be considered chauvinist. But like alcohol humor, man, he does 30 minutes about his father being an alcoholic, and that's not bullshit alcohol humor. That's digging deep, man. And that's pulling out like your demons into everybody else's entertainment. And that takes balls, man.
Yeah, I feel like there aren't hack topics. There are hack jokes.
Right.
There are hack bits.
Right.
But no topic is inherently...
Things that most people consider hack topics, I often consider necessary. Like there was also a divide in comedians that when the pandemic happened, there were certain comedians who believed that you should address the pandemic. Yeah, and I was also in a unique position of, I was basically the first comedian to go on stage after like the initial lockdown. Yeah, because I opened for the first show that happened when they reopened, and because it happened like 2 days before the reopening. Because it was the original date, and like the police was involved, and like the city government was involved, and they allowed it to go on because they knew we were opening basically like the next day. So I was the first comedian to go on stage, and I had like 15 minutes of pandemic material that I never tested because there was nowhere to test.
Mostly coughing?
I actually didn't do any coughing. I wanted to find what is the quickest way of capturing what has happened. Yeah. So I decided that the best way to lean into it would be, I walked on stage and I was like, how goes the New Year's resolutions? Yeah. And it put him into the state of thinking of like, okay, like it was impossible to do these resolutions because they shut everything down so you can go into everything. Yeah, I was supposed to go into the gym, but they shut down the gym and that and that and that. Yeah. And other comedians thought that like, oh, people have had enough. Now they want a break, so we're not going to talk about the pandemic. So I'm like, if you're a comedian that puts out specials, let's say every year or 2 years, and like at some point we watch your work and you at no point mention the pandemic, to me, that's a sign of weakness. And like, that is, you didn't, like, that was a big enough thing that humanity needs to hear a perspective. Yeah?
It was the only thing.
It was the only thing. Yeah. So how can you ignore it? How can you ignore a year of life, you know, and claim that people have heard enough? You know, like I completely disagree with that. So it's like, if you get married, it's okay to do men are like this, women are like that humor because it's your life.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? And it's gonna connect to all these other people who will need that. Not everyone has seen Chris Rock, you know? Like, just do your own spin on it. So there's value in recording yourself very, very early on because, like, I'm sure you guys have heard, like, of the process of finding your voice, right? So that thing at the very beginning is actually very close to what your voice ends up being, you know? Because, like, you still suck in many ways at the beginning, but you're trying to say the things that you're actually trying to say. Yeah.
Right.
So then you go through this journey of kind of going like farther away from who you are as an artist, and then coming back in to what you were trying to say in the first place. You know?
Right.
So with this guy, this open micer that you've mentioned, like I completely get it, and he'll probably get worse before he gets better in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you have recordings of yourself?
I record everything,
but like from the very beginning.
Everything.
Oh, okay, so you have your first stand-up set.
I have my first. Yeah, I have my first stand-up set. I have my first stand-up set in Polish, which I recently did on a Polish podcast with this guy Antoni Syrek-Dąbrowski, who does this podcast of like actually breaking down stand-up bits, and he likes to listen to an older version of it and the most recent version of it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have this joke about Pornhub statistics that I tried essentially in my first open mic. Yeah. And then it took like 5 years before I published it, which I just published it in Polish on my special. And it was a difficult thing, and it took a long time, and I didn't really rush it, you know, and I'm actually mentioning statistics from like years ago, and I don't really give a shit. Because it doesn't matter like what the actual stuff in there is currently. Like the joke is what it is. It still reveals stuff. So that was cool, you know, to watch the journey of that joke. Because in Poland, we don't really have that luxury. Like in the American comic scene, you can work on a joke for your whole career, and it's no problem. You can like live off of comedy and work on a joke for like 9 years. Because I met comedians from America, and then like really opened up my eyes. I opened for this guy, Ian Fidance, who opens for the like New York Comedy Cellar, comedian. He looks kind of homeless. He's old. He did Bumping Mics with Jeff Ross.
Dave Attell.
He opens for Dave Attell. Yeah. And he works at the Comedy Cellar, and Ian Fidance does like 14 spots a week. So he like works at the best comedy club in the world, opens for potentially the best comedian in the world. So I asked him like, how long have you been doing this? He said 9 years. And then I asked him how much material he had, and he said he's getting close to 55 minutes. And that shit like blew my mind. That like you collect 55 minutes in 9 years. Yeah. Because the stand-up as being part of the culture allows you to live off of stand-up and do that, you know?
Right.
Whereas for us, if you want to sell tickets, you got to show them who the fuck you are. So you got to publish and burn material. Even though, like, no one really watches my first special, right? Like in the ether, it like gets kind of lost, but I still got to burn that material.
Right.
Because there's a chance that like 8 people in my next show have seen it. So I can't do it anymore. So we got to be constantly writing, and we basically get a season or 2 to perfect it as much as we can perfect it and publish and move on.
Right. Sure.
Do you think in the U.S. it's also a bit like if you're working in the cellar, the audience is coming to you? So we host open mics in Warsaw, and we can't do the same jokes every week because it's the same people, half of them.
Yeah. So the cellar itself is a bit of a cheat code because it's tourists mostly.
Yeah.
So
constantly cycling through.
Yeah. And it's astonishing. Like I've never been to the cellar, but I've actually made a point to like ask people that have been. And I was like, bro, like when you went to the cellar like twice in 1 week, did you see the same people doing the same shit? And the answer is yes. And then you see that for years and years. Like, so there's this guy at the cellar. His last name is Greer. He's a He's a black dude that just murders. Yeah.
Fuck, what's his name? He's so funny, man.
Yeah.
Dave Greer?
Dave Greer? That sounds right.
Johnny Greer.
No, but
Jim Greer.
Greer. Yeah, he's crazy.
And he opens with this joke that like he wasn't even trying to like do comedy with somebody. He told him he'll get $5, so he's up here because he has that look. And I always connect to like lower energy comedians. And if you're like lower energy and like murder, then I find that more attractive than like Michael McIntyre running all over the stage type shit. Yeah,
sure.
And he does the same shit for years and years because the American market allows you to do that. Like there was Louis C.K. came to do a couple of shows in Warsaw when he had that thing that he had to do shows in Warsaw.
What happened with him? I forget.
And it was weird because like the show was at like the Polish, one of the stages from the Polish National Theater. It was like the room probably cost like 45,000 PLN to rent or something like that. It was just gorgeous room. And then the first 2 rows was all Polish stand-up comics. And we're all like sitting there like giddy, excited and looking around. And he had 3 openers. One of them, I don't remember. Like everyone said he was great. I thought he was very ordinary, the first guy.
Oh, I know you're because I was there at the show.
I don't remember his name. I thought he was very forgettable. The second guy was
Greg Hahn is his name. I think.
Yes, that was no. That's the guy that like I remember. The guy that kept going like this. Like when that guy came out, we were all just like, "What the fuck is going?
So
like,
funny,
why
man.
is this shit so funny?" Like, I remember all of us like looking around like to see if everybody's experiencing it the same way. And then we YouTubed him, and
it's the same shit
was online 9 years prior.
Yep.
And I'm like, he's still opening for Louis with the same stuff.
Same shit, yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
you know?
I remembered I had the exact same experience because Greg Hahn, because the first guy, I remember it was Joe List, or I don't know which one was first, but Joe List, Keith Robinson.
Yeah, the guy that had a stroke.
And then Greg Hahn came on, and me and my sister were crying laughing. And just like, what the fuck, exactly what you're saying, like, what the fuck is it? Like, he literally was, listen, I love Louis C.K., I was there for Louis C.K. Louis C.K. did great, but Greg Hahn, I was like, what the
so
fuck?
Funny, yeah.
And exactly. I fucking Googled him.
You love the feeling of like shock, but not because you're saying something fucked up, but you're just like so caught off guard with what's happening, you know? Yeah. And I love like as someone who's not yet famous and often performing with people that are famous, I can do that with them. Yeah, that like I would do a showcase show with a bunch of like more famous people. And like I could feel the room feeling like, who the fuck is this guy? And like, why does he think he can do this? Like, and that's great.
Yeah, it was legit. Like I remember like fucking Greg Hahn. Although that's weird because he was so high energy, and you're saying that you don't like, or you don't connect as much with high energy guys, but that guy was the most high energy. Yeah, he was only energy basically.
Yeah. So for me, I guess I then go into like a mode of. Like, my mind is often trapped in the idea of being a stand-up comedian. So...
In what way?
In the ways that, like, I'm either filtering reality constantly through, is this a bit?
Right.
Or, like, can I learn something here?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, I usually don't watch, like, anything on Netflix or any of these platforms that I can't really learn from. Yeah. So I remember when I was younger, there was this TV show like Black Sails. I don't know if you guys know. It's about pirates.
Okay.
It's about pirates that are like, it's kind of like loosely based on real pirates and then adding these like fictional stories to give it like a little drama and sexiness and things like that. And I remember like really enjoying the first 2 seasons or whatever. And then like starting my own like artistic thing. And then going back to the next season, and I was like, I can't do stuff like this anymore, you know? Like, so when he started doing all this, I kind of go into like, okay, I'm never going to be doing anything like that on stage, so I can go into pure entertainment mode and just be entertained by this guy instead of trying to learn from him, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Gotcha. I know, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, one thing just to clarify also just what we were talking about before. About Polish people versus expats, or as I call them, immigrants. I was in a bubble, but it was Polish people, but it was a bubble because my sister's in a band and I was introduced to musicians through my sister. And so all the people were actually Polish people. And I think also DJing versus comedy, like DJs here need to work with each other a little bit more. So I don't know. Because it's like, you know, you can DJ till 6 a.m, you need another DJ. But also, I can understand someone being guarded, but I think me being bright-eyed, being Canadian, definitely like, oh, that's cool, you're from another country and coming here to Poland definitely helps. But also being like friendly and bright-eyed as opposed to like, oh, we're both DJs, fuck you. Anyone can say fuck you if you're acting like that. But if you're like, if you're happy and you're like, yeah, come out. Oh, you want to perform at my show? Absolutely, come. Is like, even if you're like, who the fuck is this guy? I remember him in the front row and now he's doing comedy, fuck him, or whatever you like a person might think, to be like completely accepting and open you can change somebody doing that.
But I'd say mainly like this is mostly Beatrice's idea, but we approach comedy not that we're comedians competing for like attention. We are creating an economy. We are creating the demand by trying to do the thing well, putting on shows, showing people that English comedy can be good and can be here. And if this city has over 1 million people, like there is an audience, and there's certainly there's room for more than one show. You need to create the demand and the supply and create the whole community. And you cannot do that with a fuck you attitude.
Yeah. So everything is a reflection of your own energy. Yeah. So, and this is something I'm learning to accept, that, you know, we really create the realities we're living in. And you being bright-eyed and positive, allowing you to like feeling more welcomed, makes sense in the universe, right? Like it's your energy being reciprocated back to you, and that makes sense in a world that's powered by logic. Yeah.
And I am a comedy robot.
And if you are a comedy robot, whatever, like it's reflected back to you. And I know I've gone back to things where I've analyzed things that like, yeah, I could have had the energy that would make other comics be like weary of me or like skeptical of me or careful of me. And I almost like, I get it, you know, because like I understand that I'm not the sort of comic. Like there are comics that are like weird enough on stage that you know he might be successful, but he won't be comedian number 1, 2, or 3 because he's just too weird, right? So I'm not like that. Yeah, like when I came into the stage, people understood. They're like, oh, this guy he's gonna be a comic, right? Like, so you really have to be like the way you describe positive and bright-eyed to when you're coming in like that, because you're not by default being supported. Yeah. But then it could be like fake or perceived as fake, or not even fake, but like,
no, I know what you're
he's
saying.
Trying to be nice to me.
Yeah, sure.
So I might be even more skeptical of him now.
Sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, and if I did fake the personality I have, then it would come off. And I am sometimes like surprised that people would trust me. Like we're talking about
surprised people.
Yeah, I am
because I
like,
want to kill them.
Are you not aware that I
they
am
don't know that I
asshole?
want to kill them?
I'll fucking murder you. No, I have had that before where someone trusts me off the bat, and I'm like, I mean, technically, logically, absolutely, they should. And I do mean what I'm saying. However, I still have that thought of like, why do they know? Why do they know?
No part of you projects negative intentions, Ariel.
Yeah, but like...
And that's it's...
Which is weird for someone that looks like he could
He's
be
like
a
a giant.
Nazi.
He's
I would be a
football
great con
giant.
artist if I was faking it.
You're inclined.
But I definitely like. I mean, I think. I mean, we talked about this before. Like emotions, like read on my face because I'll. If I really have to act, I'll act. But like most of the time, if I'm pissed off at someone and I say, yeah, good one, Philip, yeah, whatever, you'll know immediately, and then I'm not hiding anything very well.
I think I don't even like the word fake anymore because to me, like there's this thing of like fake it till you make it, which I kind of opposed to when I heard this TED Talk. And it's like one of the most popular TED Talks in the world about like how you can trick your mind into being whoever you want to be by like power poses, for example. And that you can go into
which were just proven that those studies has proven that it does not increase testosterone in your body by doing a power pose. But do you know about this?
So
it's debunked. Yeah.
It's debunked. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Do it till you do it is what I prefer.
But like her story kind of does. And then like imposter syndrome is also a thing that happens when you start succeeding. People experience this thing of like, whoa, like I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah, sure.
And I've worked with people that I've taught English, which has always turned into like kind of like self-help sessions in English of like corporate professionals that would get promoted like way quicker than they're expected, and they're like, oh shit, I got to improve my English. I got to improve my presentations because like these people will discover that this has been a mistake, you know? Like, and I would tell them like, there are no rules, bro. Like if someone puts you here, then you're here. Like just accept it, whatever it is you are, someone else with more responsibility has made that call that this is the right call. You just fucking go with it, man. Like you'll make some mistakes, like, but it's all good. Like trust this, you know?
Yeah.
And with comedy, you know, it's always like just tune it all out, you know, like this profession will fucking bring you down very quick. Like no matter how good you are, stand-up has a way of tuning down your ego to the fucking exactly where it needs to be. So I try not to fuck with the universe. Yeah. So like back to this fake shit, you choose who you want to become and then you program yourself to becoming that. Yeah. So I'm choosing that I want peace and happiness and calmness in my life, and I'm programming that into my existence. And stand-up is just one of the things that I do. Going back to what you said about your approach to doing these shows and creating demand. And for me, it's creating value. Yeah, like when I step on stage or I speak online or whatever, I want things to have value. Yeah, and when I talk to my kid about like when we go to work, when I was a kid, people would be like, I need to go to work because I need money. And the kid would be like, but why do we need money? And then he'd be like, you see,
capitalism,
you see these,
industrial revolution.
And yeah, so instead of doing all that, people go do this primal thing of like, you know, these presents that we give you, that comes from money. So then the kid takes on this guilt of like playing with these toys.
Yeah.
Because work to a kid is absence of a parent.
My PlayStation is my father not teaching me catch.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the only, like, it's the worst thing in the world for a kid is work because it always equals no mom, no dad. So when I teach my kid about work, I don't tell him it's about the money because then, like, my parents would be like, because that's how the world works.
Right.
You know? And in a way that is how the world works. But we say things like, we don't go to work because we have to. We go to work because humans need to do something and we're doing awesome things. When dad goes to work, he makes people laugh by speaking into a microphone. And he understands that. My kid understands that that is like a cool thing to get money for. Because he understands money because like we'll do like, he'll fix his car and he'll be like, tu pieniążki, you know, like stuff like that, yeah? So he gets the concept of an exchange. My fiance works for a gaming company that makes awesome games, you know? So we can be like, when mom goes to work, she creates value by doing these things that give joy to people. So we both give joy to people, and that's a cooler way of looking at work.
Let's talk about your special "Happy" on YouTube.
But that's
such a huge.
That's
switch.
in Polish. Yeah.
Is it your first special that you've?
It's just like a recording. Like it's not even that special, you know. Like in Poland, you just record stuff.
So it's
an
regular
hour of your stand-up.
So it's like 42 minutes of
that
my
counts.
stand-up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before I had a recording of like 26 minutes, and before that I had a recording of 7 minutes.
So talk to us
Polish
about
Everything's in Polish.
We pulled it up earlier. It's like, let's watch his special. It was in Polish. I was like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
And you Ariel watched some of it.
Yeah.
I have a couple of recordings on YouTube in English that are like from way back when, and that recording of the crowd work that I talked to you at
really
is on YouTube.
That's on YouTube?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I got to see
My
that.
first open mic set is on YouTube.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
is it?
Most people think that's a horrible idea, but
yeah, but it's not even like if you entitle that like my first open mic, then that's not that's not like a thing you're representing yourself as a comedian. That's just a thing that's like a vlog almost of that day. You know,
it's pretty good. Jordan is bragging.
That's right.
So can you walk us through? Allow me to be robotic for a second.
Do it.
Why you chose to record at this time, how you recorded it, just walk us through the process, the thought process, and the actual technical process.
The recording is from like June or July, actually. Because there is a bit of a vacation season in the Polish stand-up season during the summer because, like, outdoor venues are hard to compete with. People understand that there's a seasonal rhythm to Polish stand-up. So it's like, it's kind of a break in the summertime, that it's testing season. Then it's like everybody tours Poland until it's time to record again and take another break. That's if you're doing the yearly thing, yeah? So I recorded before the break. With the intention of publishing when people also watch more YouTube. Yeah, so October. Yeah, basically October, I think. Although
I think it was November.
Yeah, so we ended up having like a bunch of delays, of course. And overall, this is my most recent like challenge, was to accept to like detach from that shit and then like
the material.
Yeah, or the YouTube recording and checking the numbers that it's getting and not being like satisfied by being like, fuck it, it just is what it is, on to the next one, like plan the next season. And then what happened was I was doing a drive of like 40 minutes. So I listened to a recent testing show where I tested 30 minutes of material. And I fucking loved it, man. I was fucking laughing to myself, and it made me feel calm and better that I just got to keep doing what I'm doing, and it'll work out the way it's supposed to work out. Yeah.
That's a sweet feeling, actually.
Yeah. Acceptance. Zen.
Okay, so you finished it and you put it out. How's the like?
How do you feel about the venue, Hydrozagaga, which is a place we all know?
Yeah, so it was actually one of the first places I ever performed at. I wanted to record it there because I wanted kind of like my first 26 minutes is recorded at this big ass venue for 1,000 people. And we have like drone shots and shit like that. And it's almost like kind of back to the imposter syndrome, that it feels like kind of dishonest, that like this isn't what my career looks like on a daily basis.
To us, me, Beatrice, and Ariel, like the largest we've done. Well, what's the largest you've done, Ariel?
For stand-up, was probably like a Beatrice's show, probably like 100 people, something like that.
Like 100, 150. So like that.
Yes, the most I've done was 8,700. But I feel like that's, again, I do that as a supporting act. So I felt like that was almost like dishonest. So I wanted to kind of record it.
Sorry, I'm not the guy. The guy's coming on soon. Just let me do my stuff. And you have to win them over way more than
exactly. Yeah. Except when you record your special, then it is your night. Like you have your comedian friends like open for you, and then you do the second half. And destroyed. Like on the night, like I felt so happy with the show. Like it went great. And I wanted to be in like a dirty or comedy club type of a thing, you know, to like show the sort of underbelly of this stand-up journey more, you know. Yeah, and I'm not sure we exactly captured. Yeah, I don't know. I have like questions about it now. The way it looks, the way it sounds.
Did you have mics in the audience, or just?
I think it's about who was doing the lights.
I
have a vendetta.
Yeah. So Jordan, to give you background, Jordan did a show there, also like 100 people or something like that. And he's annoyed at the lights because he has OCD or some shit.
So the lights actually became an issue for the editing guy, that he claimed there was a flicker. And in order to take off the flicker, he had to like make the video look a certain way that I felt like was a mistake for me to accept. And I would have preferred the flicker.
They've got a proper spotlight. That's where I would do, because the spotlight matters quite a lot. And he drove. Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking because I'm getting nerdy about the lights.
I'll do another jingle. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Jordan.
Yeah.
They fucked up the lights at my hour show. 3 minutes in, somebody from the bar came up and like flicked a switch to make the lights horrible, and I just had to be like, we're in hell. And then I just did the rest of the hour.
Did the guy not speak English? You could have probably asked him from the stage to fix it.
But they didn't know how. The problem
is, the guy I had seemed very professional.
Yeah, everything was fine with his lights, Jordan. That's enough. Enough with the fucking lights.
Nah, I gotta go.
Yeah. So
we'll sign off then, I think. Yeah. Listen, unless you've anything to plug.
Nah, just follow me on social media. If you speak Polish, I got to get an English channel. So that's probably another mission for next year. That I got to get English.
Brymora?
Yeah.
Filip Brymora. We'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah.
We'll have it in the description.
Peace. Thank you.
We have a way of doing it. Guys, thank you for listening to the Comedy Hall.
You're not German.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. Thanks, Filip.
So guys, follow the Comedy Hall on Facebook, on Instagram. Check out our shows. We will be so happy to talk with you. Also, if you have any suggestion about possible topics for this podcast, reach out. If you want to be part of the podcast, reach out. If you're a comedian and you stop by Warsaw, come and we will have fun together on stage. So, ciao.